Most people think their daily fatigue is just a sign of aging, but at a cellular level, it's actually your mitochondrial engines struggling to produce spark. If you introduce CoQ10 for 30 days, a specific biochemical shift happens inside your membranes. But is it a real reset or just marketing hype? CoQ10 is a small fat-soluble molecule that lives inside your cell's mitochondria, the tiny organelles that make most of your ATP, the cell's usable energy currency. Think of mitochondria as engines and CoQ10 as both a critical gear in the transmission and a protective lubricant on the moving parts. It shuttles electrons along the electron transport chain so the engine runs smoothly, and it also helps protect those membrane lipids from oxidative damage. That double role, facilitator of energy production plus local antioxidant, is exactly why people talk about CoQ10 when they talk about improving energy, recovery, and mitochondrial resilience. Before we dive into what you might feel in 30 days, a practical note: if you want the specific CoQ10 form and dosing I reference later, I put a link in the description below. Now let's walk through the biology, the realistic timeline, the dosing and quality choices, and the signs that suggest CoQ10 is making a measurable difference for you. When you take CoQ10 orally, it enters your digestive tract, dissolves in dietary fats, and eventually gets absorbed into the bloodstream. From there, it's carried into tissues, including muscle and heart, where mitochondria incorporate it into their inner membrane pools. That incorporation doesn't happen instantaneously. Blood levels can rise within days, but tissue saturation and mitochondrial integration take longer. In practical terms, your plasma level can increase quite quickly. The functional effects at the cellular level generally build over weeks. Mechanistically, here's what happens. Simply, CoQ10 improves the efficiency of electron transfer between complexes in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. A smoother electron flow means ATP is made with fewer misfired electrons, and fewer misfired electrons means less production of reactive oxygen species, the biochemical noise that can damage membranes and proteins. With less oxidative disruption, signaling inside the cell is clearer, membrane integrity is better preserved, and recovery after stress or exercise becomes easier. That's the theoretical basis for the subjective energy and reduced muscle fatigue people report. So what's realistic to expect after 30 days? First week, you may notice little to modest change. Some users report a subtle uptick in baseline energy or a small improvement in exercise tolerance after several days. Others feel nothing right away. Biochemically, plasma CoQ10 is already elevated, which is a necessary first step. 2 to 4 weeks. This is the window where many people, especially those who start with low CoQ10 levels or who are taking statins, report the first clear differences. Muscle soreness after workouts may decrease. Recovery between sessions may feel quicker, and a subjective sense of steadier energy can emerge. Some people describe clearer mental energy or fewer mid-afternoon slumps. These effects are plausible because that's when more CoQ10 has been incorporated into mitochondrial membranes and is influencing ATP production and localized antioxidant protection. At 30 days specifically, you can reasonably expect measurable improvement in how you feel if you were deficient, had inhibited synthesis, for example from statin therapy, or simply had a higher than average demand for CoQ10. For many otherwise healthy adults, the changes may be subtle but noticeable. A slightly faster recovery curve, fewer muscle twinges, or a modest lift in sustained energy. For others, especially those without an underlying deficiency, the subjective differences may be minimal and require more time or additional supports to become meaningful. It's crucial to distinguish between acute, high-dose therapeutic strategies and everyday maintenance. Peer-reviewed clinical trials often explore higher doses for short intervals to address specific conditions. Long-term, everyday use tends toward lower maintenance doses. For CoQ10, common maintenance ranges used in research and practice fall roughly between 100 and 300 milliliters per day. Clinical trials and therapeutic protocols sometimes explore higher doses for defined periods, but higher does not automatically mean better for everyone. The right dose depends on factors like your age, body size, whether you're taking statins, and your absorption capacity. Another key variable is the chemical form. CoQ10 exists as ubiquinone, the oxidized form, and ubiquinol, the reduced form. Ubiquinol tends to be more bioavailable, particularly in older adults or anyone with absorption challenges. Ubiquinone is often converted to ubiquinol in the body, but that conversion efficiency declines with age or certain health conditions. Many modern formulations aim to improve absorption by solubilizing CoQ10 in oil-based or nanoemulsion matrices, Those formats generally increase the fraction that gets into the bloodstream and, eventually, into tissues. Absorption is also meal-dependent. Because CoQ10 is fat-soluble, taking it with a meal that contains some dietary fat increases uptake. If you take it on an empty stomach, you're likely losing some efficiency. Some people split their daily dose, for example, morning and early afternoon, to smooth blood levels and reduce the chance of mild digestive discomfort. Who tends to notice benefits fastest? People who start from a point of relative deficiency or who have factors that lower endogenous CoQ10 synthesis are the most likely to experience noticeable changes within a month. Statin users are a classic example. The biochemical pathway that makes cholesterol also produces CoQ10, and statins can reduce that endogenous production. That's why clinical evidence consistently shows that those on statins report improved muscle endurance and less statin-associated muscle discomfort after introducing CoQ10. Phrase it carefully. Not everyone will experience this, but the mechanism explains why some people benefit more than others. There's also individual variability tied to genetics, digestive health, and co-nutrient status. If your bile production is low, or if you have conditions that impair fat absorption, CoQ10 uptake will be compromised. Genetic differences may affect enzymes involved in CoQ10 biosynthesis or transport, changing how much you need to feel an effect. Similarly, your mitochondrial machinery depends on a suite of cofactors. Adequate B vitamins, magnesium, L-carnitine, and antioxidants like vitamin E play roles in optimal mitochondrial function. For someone who is marginally low in several cofactors, adding CoQ10 alone might produce only a modest change. Combining it with nutritional supports and exercise tends to yield more robust gains. Let's talk safety and interactions in plain terms. CoQ10 is generally well tolerated. Mild gastrointestinal upset is the most commonly reported side effect. A small number of users note increased alertness or slight insomnia if taken late in the day. Importantly, CoQ10 may interact with certain medications. For example, it can potentially affect the activity of anticoagulants like warfarin, and it's prudent to be cautious if you're on complex regimens for blood pressure or other conditions. If you're taking prescription medications, especially anticoagulants or multiple cardiovascular drugs, consult with a healthcare professional before starting CoQ10. That's a cautious suggestion, not a directive, and it helps ensure safety. Now, quality. Because CoQ10 is lipophilic and prone to variable absorption, formulation matters. Look for products that clearly state the form, ubiquinol versus ubiquinone, the dose per capsule, and evidence of enhanced absorption if they claim it. Third-party testing and certifications from credible organizations provide extra assurance about purity and accurate dosing. Avoid brands that make exaggerated health promises or that hide details about their source and testing. There's no reliable sensory test you can do at home to validate potency. Lab verification is the trustworthy route. What you should track over the next 30 days to see if CoQ10 is doing something meaningful for you. Note your baseline energy patterns, how quickly you recover after workouts, any change in muscle soreness, fluctuations in mental clarity throughout the day, sleep quality, and any digestive effects. Keep the context in mind. If you introduce new training, change your sleep schedule, or alter diet or other supplements at the same time, it becomes harder to isolate CoQ10's role. A simple diary or 2-week baseline before starting, followed by a 30-day log, can help you evaluate trends. It's also important to set expectations about full mitochondrial adaptation. Improving localized CoQ10 pools and reducing oxidative disruption can yield functional gains in a month, but restructuring mitochondrial number and full biogenesis, literally growing more or healthier mitochondria, typically takes longer and often requires combined interventions such as regular aerobic exercise, resistance training, adequate protein, and a spectrum of micronutrients. In other words, CoQ10 is a potent supporting player, but it's rarely a lone hero in long-term mitochondrial remodeling. What about combining CoQ10 with other supplements? Some co-supports make intuitive sense. Antioxidants like vitamin E can work synergistically with CoQ10 in cell membranes. Magnesium and B vitamins support the enzymatic pathways that produce ATP. L-carnitine helps fatty acids reach mitochondria for fuel. If your goal is a holistic mitochondrial program, consider a targeted blend rather than relying on a single ingredient. Again, be cautious with interactions and dosing, and when in doubt, consult a clinician familiar with nutritional therapeutics. Let's cover a couple of practical scenarios you might recognize. If you are taking a statin and you've been experiencing mild muscle tiredness or a sense of reduced training output, adding CoQ10 in the 100-200 mg per day range, ideally as ubiquinol or a well-absorbed ubiquinone formulation, may reduce muscle-related symptoms for some people within a few weeks. If you're an older adult with lower natural CoQ10 synthesis, a daily ubiquinol dose may produce more noticeable improvements in energy and recovery by day 30 than a low-dose ubiquinone. For a healthy, younger adult without deficiency, the differences after 30 days may be subtle and require longer use or added interventions to become clear. Now, dosing specifics again so you can make an informed choice. Many practitioners recommend starting in a moderate range, around 100 mg per day, and assessing response after 4 weeks. If you need more impact and tolerance is good, moving to 200-300 mg daily is a common adjustment. Some clinical studies use higher doses under monitored conditions. Higher doses are not appropriate for everyone. Splitting the dose can minimize GI upset and smooth circulating levels. If you're wondering whether there are laboratory ways to monitor effect, certain specialized tests can estimate plasma CoQ10, and some clinicians use functional assessments like exercise recovery metrics or validated fatigue scales. These approaches can help quantify change, but they're not routine for most people. For most, well-kept symptom tracking is the simplest, low-cost way to monitor whether CoQ10 is having meaningful effects. A few last practical tips to get the most out of a 30-day trial. Choose a quality product that discloses form and dose. Take it consistently with a meal containing healthy fats. Give it at least 4 weeks before making a judgment on efficacy. Track symptoms objectively if you can. And if you're on medications, particularly anticoagulants or multiple cardiovascular drugs, touch base with a clinician before starting. To summarize, CoQ10 plays a central role in mitochondrial energy generation and local antioxidant protection. After 30 days of consistent supplementation, many people, especially those with low baseline levels, people on statins, or older adults, can expect to notice some functional improvements such as steadier daily energy, better exercise recovery, and reduced muscle fatigue. For others, changes may be subtle or require additional nutritional and lifestyle supports to become apparent. No supplement guarantees results for everyone, and mitochondrial reset, in the sense of wholesale cellular renewal, typically requires broader interventions over a longer period. If you want to explore the specific CoQ10 form I mentioned earlier and see dosing and formulation details, check the link in the description below. If you decide to try CoQ10, consider a modest trial. Pick a reputable ubiquinol or well-absorbed ubiquinone product. Take it with a fat-containing meal. Track your symptoms for 30 days and evaluate. If you found this breakdown useful, subscribe for clear, evidence-focused updates on supplements and practical biohacks for energy and recovery. Check the description for that product link and additional resources. And if you're on prescription medications or have complex health conditions, consider discussing CoQ10 with a trusted healthcare provider before starting.